feel like I'm doing some sort of apology video. But anyway, I'm not apologizing for anything. You may or may not remember me mentioning that I have been doing many blood tests over the course of about 18 months. Or you might not even know about it, because why would you? And maybe you don't care. But over the past 18 months, I was interested in what was going on underneath the surface. I take good care of myself. I barely drink. I eat good quality food. I train a lot. I hydrate a lot. I sleep well. But I didn't know what was going on underneath. So I was like, I want to get some blood tests done and see where all of my levels are at. That was the only reason at the time, really. But I was keen to understand more about testosterone, TRT, and things like that. So I took a blood test and my testosterone levels were low. And I didn't want that to be a reason of like, oh, straight away, my testosterone levels are low, I'm gonna hop on TRT. At the time, I wasn't really symptomatic. I wasn't really feeling anything that I would have suggested would have like a negative of life, essentially. My energy was pretty good. I'd say my muscle mass, my training was all in a good place. My general mood was in a pretty good place, but my testosterone came back pretty low. So I found it interesting, and I thought, how do you naturally boost testosterone? So I started taking things like ashwagandha. I started to double down even more on my sleep. I, was just looking into things in a little bit more depth and doing some of my own research. Then I just thought, okay, January last year, so January 2025, I went through a period of not particularly enjoying life that much, but I think that was more down to what I was doing at the time with working far too much. Maybe stress levels were a little bit higher than they normally would be. So I was like, I'm going to retest, and I used a different company. At the time, the one that I used was called Balance My Hormones, I think it was. So then I did another test, and that would have been around April, May time, I think it was. And that came back low as well. And then I had a couple of things go on. I'm not going to go too much into too much depth about that. It wasn't anything crazy, but there was a couple of things I was like, oh, I don't feel quite right. So I went to the NHS and I was like, I've had these low testosterone tests. I kind of leaned on the fact that I wasn't feeling great, essentially, just so I could get a test through them. And yeah, I ended up getting a testosterone test, a urine test through them as well, and got a load of blood work markers back from those. And the second test that I did was through manual as well. So at this time I'd done Balance My Hormones, manual, and now NHS as well. All three of them came back low. Nothing else was really being flagged. There was a couple of other things, and I think it was my creatinine levels were high, but that's pretty normal for people who train, take creatine as well, and drink a lot of water. I wasn't overly concerned by that. The doctors told me to drink more water, and I was like, great advice. So then I had a third test, and yeah, my testosterone was low. But at that point, I was moving apartment in a country that I'd been living in the Middle East. We're moving country, planning a wedding. I was running and growing and scaling the business. I think my stress levels were probably at the highest they'd ever been. I didn't really feel it at the time, but there was around 8 to 12 week period where life was just mental. There was so much travel involved. I had to leave the country I was staying in. So in Oman, I could only stay there for 30 days before I had to leave and then come back over the border. So I had to do that. I got stuck and stranded in Dubai to do with my visa as well for about 3.5 weeks. I'd traveled back to the UK, came back out to the Middle East. There was so much going on. I also in that time I came to Bali for 2 weeks, then had my stag do. And there was so much going on that I thought maybe just my stress levels were quite high. And I was dieting at the same point for my stag do because I wanted to be in better shape. Hopefully these glasses make me look way more intelligent as well. I don't need them. I can see without them, but they do help with reading. But I'm keeping them on for this video. So I thought low body fat percentage, maybe my food is affecting it because it's being so low. So I was like, I'll get the wedding out of the way. And then I'm going to take another test once my food has been high and hopefully stress has decreased. And that came back low again. And at this point, I was like, there's a few things happening here over the last year. And I didn't want to jump on something straight away because it kind of just feels weird. The thought of injecting myself felt very, very strange. And I thought, I'm healthy enough as it is. It's not as if, I've got depression or anything like that with my mood. I'm not noticing my energy shift and gaining body fat and things like that. And I wasn't against it, but I didn't want to go down that route because I thought, it will kind of fix itself, or I'm fine the way that I am. But one thing that changed for me, two things that changed for me is my brother had been on it for a while, TRT, and he had noticed such a big change in his mental well-being. But then I've also listened to so many podcasts and so much due diligence on the subject that I was like, if I can operate the way that I'm operating now, and maybe it's not 100%, then now it's starting to intrigue me more from this standpoint than like, oh, I want to get gain standpoint. Because if I wanted to do that, then I'd just probably go on steroids, which I have no interest in whatsoever. Obviously, there are some effects where your physique can improve, your muscle mass can improve and things like that with TRT. But I liked the idea of, if my cognitive function wasn't where it was meant to be and it could improve and maybe I can operate at an even higher level, I was like, well, why wouldn't I want that? And it's not my fault that it's not where it's meant to be. So the thought of me operating at whatever it is, 70, 80, maybe even 90%, but I still had extra 30, 20, 10% more in me, I was like, oh, okay, now I'm starting to consider it with my levels being low. The other thing that I had started to notice over the course of probably 9 months was the libido side of things. Now that often changes when you go through periods of dieting, so I just assumed it would come back, but shot to bits for almost a year, like not even a thought in my mind in that sort of sense. I was like, that isn't right. I'm only 33, at the time 32. I was like, that's not right. So there's a few things on my mind. So what I did was have one more test through manual. So you have to do a finger prick blood test that you can do at home. You send it off and then you get your biomarkers back. And then if you are low and you want to take the other test, that's got to be done by someone who's registered. So I did that, and that's the third time I've done that as well. So I've taken this to the nth degree. This isn't a decision I've taken lightly. And I even said after the last test I did, I'm not interested in exploring TRT. And that has changed, because I'm now on TRT and I have been for the last 5 weeks. I'm a fraud. So I did that other test and then that came back low. I had a consultation with a doctor, really impressed with manual and how they deal with things. They are on it with the emailing. This isn't any sort of sponsored post or anything like that. This is just the company that I used from the one that my brother did, and seeing other people that I know who's on it as well. And yeah, other people in the game. So I had a consultation with a doctor, really in depth, really good. Went through pros, cons, side effects, everything like that. A few things worried me. The main thing for me, because growing up I had bad skin at one point, so I had acne, and like it destroyed my confidence. So it can bring back those sort of things. Luckily, touch wood, nothing like that has happened, at least yet. And yeah, that's something that was playing on my mind. But I thought, well, if the pros outweigh the cons, which I'd seen with my brother, and I think it always helps to know someone who's done it and someone who's close to you done it as well, then I was like, I think I'm going to give it a go. So I was like, I'm going to give it 3 months. Let's see what happens. And here we are. I'm about 5 weeks in now, 6 weeks in. So it's quite early days still, but I just wanted to be open, honest with my experience of it so far. Have there been any changes? You know, sometimes when you start these sort of things, I think there's an element of placebo. So it's only going to, probably come to light in the next sort of 6 weeks, around that 3 month mark, and when I've got to take my blood tests again. So the thing with manual is you get a blood test after the first 3 months. They'll then adjust things if they need to, just to make sure you're on an even keel with your testosterone levels. And then you have a blood test, well, you have a consultation again after that with a doctor, and then you have a blood test at every 6 months. And yeah, that's the way that I do it. I pay, I think it's £159 a month, which some people would say is very expensive, because you can get it cheap on, like, from Pedro at the gym. But I want to do it properly. If I'm going to do this sort of thing, when I'm taking my health into my hands and what's going on underneath, I want to know I'm in the best hands possible. So I'd rather speak to someone who is qualified on this and making sure that I'm getting quality stuff. So yeah, that's really good from that standpoint. Has anything changed though? I'm starting to notice things down there are definitely on the way up. Pardon the pun. Definitely improved. There's more. There's definitely more going on there. My strength, I've noticed, is really good now. Maybe correlation isn't causation. I'm eating quite a decent amount of food at the moment. I'm in a really good position with my training. I'm enjoying my training. I'm in a new environment. But part of me thinks, if I was taking care of myself beforehand, and now I'm putting this thing into my body, and it's been 5 to 6 weeks that's going to be arguably helping that, then surely I would be in whatever top percentile that it's going to have an effect faster than people that maybe don't look after themselves. They drink too much, maybe they smoke, they eat crap food. So yeah, those are the two things I've noticed so far. My sleep's really good, but I put that down to so many different things, who knows. So yeah, so far so good, no side effects, nothing like that. And what it actually looks like is you get, I don't know if this is even going to be allowed to be shown, but I'm going to show you anyway. This is what it looks like. Comes in a little box, testosterone in a little vial. It feels a bit weird. I feel a bit dodgy when I hold it, because I've only ever seen these sort of things in dodgy videos. So that's what it looks like here. That stays at room temperature. And then I also have HCG. So I'm taking HCG alongside it, which when you take testosterone, you can affect your natural sperm count. So I'm taking HCG to kind of block that and make sure that I still produce testosterone and sperm myself. Because if I want to have kids one day, then I don't want this to be a risk of it. Who knows if that's going to happen, by the way. So there's two things that I'm taking alongside it. At the moment, I'm taking it twice a week. So I take this 0.25 of this twice a week at the moment, and that comes with a blue needle. Now I'm in Bali, I've had to travel with this. I look like a chemist here. I had to declare all of it, and I was shitting my pants because I have hundreds of needles with me, and yeah, it just feels weird and it feels wrong, and you've got to travel with like this sort of stuff in your hand luggage, and it just feels like I'm doing something dodgy. But anyway, the blue one is for testosterone, the purple one here is for HCG. That stays in the fridge. I can't recommend manual enough with how they've gone about. They teach you how to inject. You can jump on calls with people. I've had one-to-ones, all sorts. And then I've got some swabs here as well, because you keep the area nice and clean. Now you can inject into two places. They recommend either in your stomach, like in the body fat here, which I did initially start doing, but I didn't like doing that. And they say if you're at low body fat percentage, then go in intramuscular. So I go into my quad muscle, and I much prefer it, and I just alternate legs. So I do it on a Monday, I'll do it on a Thursday as well. But yeah, so far so good. I will keep you updated with how this is going. I don't think this sort of thing is spoken about anywhere near enough with men. A, with how they're feeling, and B, I don't think enough men get blood tests done to see what the hell is actually going on. I think far too many men just accept that they feel like shit, and if they have done something about it, do start training, they start eating better, sleeping better, reducing alcohol, etc., and they still feel like shit, they just accept it. I think more men should get blood tests to see where everything's at, because everything can change. All right, that's another thing. And I've completely lost my train of thought. And I just think it should be spoken about more. And I'm an open book when it comes to this, and I want to be open book. So if you want to speak to me about it, then just DM me on Instagram, or if you got my number, then WhatsApp me. But if you WhatsApp me and I don't know who you are, then I'll be a bit creeped out. But I'm an open book with it. I'm going to be honest with the journey. And yeah, hopefully we'll see some gains along the way. Kat has said she thinks my physique looks different. I've had a few people say that as well, and I do think the physique is looking pretty physique-y at this point. So hopefully I'll get some more gains with that, but that's not the sole reason why I'm doing it. So I said I'll give it 3 months. I'll check my bloods. I can get my blood test done out here in Bali. It's very, very good for that here. There's so many decent places. Then Manual will assess it, and then they'll either adjust things, keep things the same, or whatever. They'll adjust the protocol from there. But yeah, so far, been impressed with it. We'll see what happens. Hopefully continue to feel better in all departments. And yeah, if you're feeling enough and you're doing all the right things, get a blood test done, because you'd have no idea what's going on underneath the surface, and they will measure every biomarker. And I appreciate some people don't want to know if there's anything wrong with them, but just do it. You owe it to yourself to look after yourself. And that's not to say I'm a massive advocate of take testosterone. We'll see if it helps me, or if I notice something or not. So far, so good. I am seeing some benefits, but hopefully there's more to come with this. I think typically as well, it's more physique. They say like from 6 months onwards, or even longer. So maybe I've got more of that to come. My brother's in mad shape, and yeah, he's a lot different to how he was beforehand. But the important thing is his mental well-being has changed. I feel in a pretty good place, feel happy, but I have changed my environment. I'm in a place where I want to be. So there's a few factors in there, and a few things to consider. But like I say, I'm an open book. If you want to speak to me about it, I'm more than happy to speak to you about it. Just drop me a message on Instagram, and yeah, I'm happy to jump on a call. I'm happy to explain the exact process that I went through. how I jab this in every single week, straight in the arse. Now I don't do it like that. And yeah, I'll keep you updated.